Welcome to another edition of the Breakaway USA News Show. My name is Fabian Garcia. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. You're going to get some incredible stories today because what we do here is we shatter the mainstream narrative by giving you insights into things that the media will never show you. As I said, my name is Fabian Garcia, and alongside me, I have Mr. Kevin Fairs. Today, as a special guest, we have Max, the outraged teen, in the studio. Great to have you, Max.
Hey, thank you guys. Appreciate you for having me on.
Kev, what's going on today?
Man, there is so much going on today. I'm so excited to be talking to each and every one of you. And also, as we get into these stories, do not forget to like this video wherever you're watching from, subscribe to all of us, but especially to Breakaway USA to never miss a minute of 7 days a week news in some form or fashion through our content. And make sure you guys are commenting. Be involved in the conversation. We want you to be there. And especially on this next one, because is New York winnable for Republicans? Could we be flipping New York red? Well, in AOC's home district, Trump had a rally today, is currently having a rally there that is record-breaking attendance from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So I know we have some video of what he's doing out there. He's doing a campaign speech. Trump in the Bronx, everybody.
Bronx.
And he is out there. He said he was going to do it, and he's doing it.
Well, right. Well, I'll tell you this. I was surprised to see so many black people there because apparently they don't know what a computer is.
I know. They had no idea. How are they going to figure out about this rally in the first place?
Without a computer. Right. Exactly. Come on.
Absolutely. So I know that we have this video here just a little bit. This is from Benny Johnson.
Yes.
I can pull it up here.
And then what else? What other stories we got going on, Kev?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot I was going straight into the Bronx one. This is why we don't have everybody. David is predisposed. If you're used to watching this show, David is predisposed, and this is not usually my job. And so David is the one. We not only do we have the Bronx, we also have the anti-crypto.
Let's go,
bill,
Kev.
the anti-CBDC bill, which was passed in the House. And I know Fabian is going to lay out all of that for us. We also got store owners. Should they be allowed to shoot thieves, to shoot shoplifters? Max, our guest host, is going to help us out with that. And of course, we're also going to have Kev's quick hits.
Can't wait for that one. Oh, actually, you know what? Max doesn't know anything about what that is. So I'm excited for him to kind of hit the ground running on that one.
Don't worry, Max. I'm going to show up to your door during the show and beat the living crap out of you. That's what Kev's quick hits is when we have. That's why we invited the 17-year-old to the fight. I knew I could win.
Well, once law and order is restored, you'll be going to jail with no zero bail.
Wow, that's a promise.
See, that's the thing is, I'm white. I'm white. I'd get thrown in jail no matter what. That's how the world works now.
Yeah. Well, you'll get thrown in jail just for using racism against me. I'll just use my protected class status, and
there you go.
I'll get you in there.
There you go. That's called using the system for your benefit.
And like that, I'm a woman. Anyways. So we got Trump in the Bronx right now. It's going crazy all over everything. And it is throwing everything out of whack, even some of the organization of this show. But let's take a look and a listen at this piece of his campaign speech today. Trump in the Bronx. Take a look.
Never seen before, frankly. I think we can do that, too. We're going to be helping them a lot, much more than anybody would expect. It doesn't matter whether they're Democrats or Republicans, because this is about our city and our country, and it's really about the people, and in this case, the people of New York City, New York State. We're going to make you very, very happy. And Biden can't do it. He doesn't know he's alive. You know, see all the stairs here? Stair, two of them behind me, one in the middle. When he's finished with his 2.5 minute, do you ever watch his speech? They last for about 1.5 minutes. When he's finished with his speech, he can never find the stairs. He can never find the stairs. And when he does, it's not a pretty picture either. Thank goodness for Secret Service. They come up and they guide them off. No, this is not what we need. When you see President Xi of China, when you see Kim Jong-un of North Korea, when you see Putin and you see all of these people, they're at the top of their game, whether you like it or not, and they can't believe that this has happened to the United States. We have lost respect all over the world. We were the most respected country in the world 4 years ago. We were respected more than our country was ever respected 4 years ago. And now we're being laughed at. We're like a joke. And that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. We're going to do whatever. Never.
So there's a little bit
Mr. Trump
that clip
spitting
there.
fire in the
he
Bronx.
He had so many different things he said there, and obviously, you might not even remember all of it. But I have my thoughts. But I want to get your guys' first about the rally in the Bronx, about what Trump has to say, how he presents himself, even in the deeply, or at least presumed deeply liberal area of the Bronx. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, first, I'm going to say, Kevin, those are a lot of assumptions that it's deeply liberal. It may have been.
That's
But
why I
if
say
you
presumed.
Exactly.
Presumed.
But if you saw this line of people trying to get into the rally, let me just pull this up because this is absolutely incredible. And by the way, AOC, it's her district. It's literally her district. So he did it right in the middle of the devil's lair, and that's what I'm going to call it, in the devil's lair. But
the
she
worst
tweeted-
bartenders in America. The worst
bartenders in America. So bad they got to run for Congress because they can't make a vodka cranberry. But she posted, "There's going to be rain. God is good. Thank God it's going to be raining." And then I don't know who posted. Oh, Libs of TikTok posted this.
Yep.
Let's take a quick look at this.
This is one of her rallies.
So there's two things. First,
Full screen it. Full screen that.
when the president, okay? So I'm looking at.
Now that's quite a rally.
So there's two things.
That's
First,
quite a rally.
federally.
Oh my
when
God.
the president's marijuana related executive. Okay.
All right, now let's just compare that to the guy who Anyway, this goes on for like a minute. I mean,
Yeah.
it was last I saw something like 30,000 people, which is just insane.
Right. Well, and the difference between AOC and Trump is Trump doesn't have to worry about half the crowd shouting ceasefire in Gaza. So, doesn't have to worry about half the crowd not even listening to him to begin with. AOC's got all those people in mass, but if she had that building full, it probably would have been full of protesters, people that really weren't there to support her, but were there to shout, "Hey, what's going on? How come you're not voting for this ceasefire here?" It's just like you said, it was presumed liberal. I wanted to point out that the congressman from District 15 in New York was trying to race bait a little bit by saying hey, most of those people aren't from the Bronx. They're coming from outside of the Bronx. They're going in. And I don't know that that's necessarily true because I saw a lot of minorities there and people that arguably are from the Bronx at this event. And there's even this Puerto Rican that got up on stage and made this endorsement, even though he had broken English.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and even along with that, if you notice, the thumbnail that I made for this video has a sign that says "New York Hearts Trump." The thing is, yeah, sure, maybe there's some people from New Jersey, from surrounding states, or they're not even necessarily from the Bronx, but they're coming in from New York. The thing is New Jersey, where Trump had a record-breaking political rally, traditionally liberal. New York, where Trump is now having a record-breaking rally, traditionally liberal. When you look at these rallies themselves, sure, maybe they're not from the specific locality, but people are showing up in droves to see.
Well, here's the thing: is that they live in New York, and maybe some Jersey people trickle in as they always do. Sorry, shout out to New Jersey, but you do trickle in. But these are people who went. They all had their hats on. You had rappers that are from presumably the Bronx, or else I will know why they would have brought them up. Going up there, giving Trump shout outs. And he had a masterclass in rally because he did something incredibly interesting. Is he said, "Can I take a break from politics? I'm so tired." He said, "I'm OD'd on politics." He said, "Can I give the young people some help? I want to talk to the young people. I used to do this 6 minutes." And he gave some really good advice about if you want to get into business, pick a business that is easy to get into. He says, one of the things I've seen, it's so sad, is when people that have so much talent go into a business that's extremely hard and don't succeed. Go into a business that's easier. He gave some really good information to young people, which I think really need it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And along with that, there's even another big thing that I really noticed when it comes to this rally. And I want to bring that clip on that we started this with. And Fabian, I'll need your help in making sure that we organize clips and everything. But I wanted to bring this back up just because I want to show you guys, and I'm gonna mute it and just like play for like a few seconds, just because what I noticed in this was not what Trump said, was not Trump. It wasn't Trump. I'll be honest.
2.5 minute. You know, do you ever watch his speech?
Sorry, I didn't mute it, but here we go. What I noticed with all of this is, look, you can see my mouse. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See all those phones that are out there filming him right now?
Right.
So of course the majority of the footage that we get that's going to be circulating from this rally is going to be from Fox News, from News Nation, from Newsmax, from all these different, even Daily Wire or Laura Loomer or whoever. That's where a lot of it's going to be circulating from. But you want to know how you reach every crevice? You want to know how you get in between the cracks and you really get people to vote? And to vote for Donald Trump, and you get the people that would not traditionally vote, is when they get this video from their friend,
Right,
from the Bronx. And this is what Donald Trump has been so good at, is he can connect and control the media. When I say control the media, not just Fox News, not just MSNBC, CNN, Washington Post, all your lamestream bullcrap. No, he can control your average person.
right.
In terms of the media that they consume, where they send us to. These are going to go through messages, through Snapchats, through Snapchat stories, through Twitter, through Facebook, through all of our social medias. And it's happening, and you can see it. There's at least a dozen phones right there. There's a dozen videos that's going to go. If each of those go to at least one person that wasn't at that rally, that goes to 24 people, and then that gets shared, and that gets shared, and that gets shared. And that's called exponential growth, everybody. And that's how we win in 2024.
Well, I was going to say this. People will make statements like, oh, that proves that the 81 million votes wasn't real. Yes, it was real, but I think the person that got those 81 million votes was Donald Trump and not Joe Biden.
Absolutely.
Well, the thing is, especially if you're from New York, right? New York has a preponderance of being straight shooters, right? Everyone knows, talk straight to me, don't try to BS me, because it's not going to work. You live in too small of a city for the amount of people that are there, even though New York's a massive city. I mean, there's a lot of people there. So the closer you are in proximity to other people, the faster you have to get around them. So you tend to be more short fused, straight to the point. I need to get there, move out of my way. Right. Donald Trump, this is his city. He was born there. He's lived there all of his life, most of his life. And he knows how to speak to New Yorkers. And he said something incredibly important. He said, Joe Biden's speeches are like 2 minutes and then he has to leave. In 2 minutes, you really can't get a sense of, do I like this guy? Is he real? Is he talking to me? Is he talking to me, not just at me? And Donald Trump, he has these very long rallies. I think it was well over an hour. I've never seen him do under an hour, but he interjects comedy with stories. He read poetry. He gave young people life business advice. He talked about the old heads and these old New York real estate and developers. And so he did a little bit of every single thing that he can do. He talked about his record, about how America's failing, but that he's going to fix. It was everything in an arc that you would think should be in the speech, and not like a Joe Biden, I'm going to fall down and then talk for 2 minutes and then leave.
Right. And I don't know if he meant that literally or not. When he said 1.5, 2.5 minutes, I wonder if he meant that that's as long as he can be coherent for, and then the rest of the speech just sucks. Because like 1.5 to 2.5 minutes, it sounds like Biden's doing great. Like there are some times where I listen to him and he sounds pretty coherent for a moment in time. But then, eventually he'll start, slipping up. He'll start saying things that don't make sense, including that he was the vice president during the pandemic. Just stuff like that will start to slip into the speech. And then, next thing you know, nobody knows what the hell he's talking about. And I was worried that, like, at the State of the Union, he sounded like a drugged up guy, because I think what they're trying to do is like push him, make him to sound like he's really energetic. Like he's not Grandpa Joe. He's got like a middle-aged spirit. Like this guy actually can handle presidential politics. He can handle giving speeches. He can handle doing debates. That's why he's like, make my day, pal, or whatever, when he said to Trump.
Yeah, he does these Clint Eastwood-isms. Exactly. That's what he does. That's his way of being tough. Like, I'm gonna get you, sucker. Or
Yeah,
something like,
well,
come on, dude.
it's all
What are you,
fake though.
100
It's
years
all
old?
art. It's just completely artificial. That's why I'm like, towards the end, they're gonna put a lot of energy into this guy. They're gonna make Joe look really energetic.
They're
I don't
gonna
know how they're
literally
gonna do
put
it.
energy into him.
Well,
They're
and
really
that
gonna put
and
energy
that's
in it.
the
I don't know if they're gonna
thing.
put a bunch of monsters in him or drugs or what they're gonna do.
Well, and that's the thing though, and maybe I could pull this up real quick because I know it was not in our show plan. I'll go off script just as much as Trump does. Trump loves to go off script. He never sticks to the teleprompter. But we had this ad. I don't know if you guys saw this in the last week. We had this ad in the last week that Trump, it was a crowdsourced ad. It was not made by the
Yeah.
Trump campaign. And in it, briefly, it said something. There was a news headline that was part of B-roll that said a unified Reich. I don't know if I can, maybe Fabian or somebody could find that ad real quick. We could pull it up. We could play it. But the point of what I want to talk about with it is now
Yeah.
all the Democrats are on this and they're like, and not even just Democrats, progressive lefties, anybody who's just anti-Trump, even like Nikki Haley Republicans are like,
Yeah.
oh my God, Trump is literally Hitler. He has this thing that says unified Reich. You look into the news article that's in the B-roll. It's actually from World War I, has nothing to do with Nazism, with a Hitler-esque Reich. No, it has nothing to do with any of that. But they're all like, oh, well, Reich has to do with Nazis, so it must mean that Trump is a Nazi, blah, 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 blah. And this is the problem for Trump and the benefit for Joe. Is that I guarantee you the vast majority, the ladies of The View, the MSNBC reporters did not watch this entire ad, whatever it was. I got to be honest. I could not, they did not watch the entire ad, but they are focusing on this 2 to 3 seconds. And so that's exactly what happens is they'll focus on the 2 to 3 seconds that Joe sounds like he can actually get a sentence out. And then they'll also focus on the 2 to 3 seconds that's Donald Trump saying that Hannibal Lecter was a very nice guy, He had friends for dinner. And they'll focus on that. And then they won't hear the minute and a half before that talks about how we need to bring back insane asylums. Basically, it talks about the mentally ill and how he's making a joke, and that's the problem. That's why you have Democrats out there. It's ads like that because they take everything out of context and then do not do their research, and that's the problem that we're seeing, and that's why Donald Trump fails with even the average person who just wants to watch CNN, maybe just to get like a dose of the news, and then they get a whole like propaganda idea shoved down their throat.
Right. They don't get news. They get an opinion piece. That's what they get from all these people that are just unhinged. And we know that the View's unhinged, especially if they didn't have a problem with, the WNBA, this idea of these women players being successful and how they need to get their fair share and they need to be paid just like men. But once Caitlin Clark comes in, views go up, more people are in the stands, more people are supporting women's basketball. Then it's a problem, because she's bringing them because she's got pretty privilege and because she's white. They wouldn't have had an issue if it was a black player bringing all of that. But honestly, they should support women in general. They should stop with this identity politics, because that's what it is when they're basing it on, oh, she's bringing it on because they're white, and just it's ridiculous.
You're
and so
absolutely right.
They have no credibility when it comes to other topics.
You're eating into the quick hits, so let's make sure that we don't need it, because you're going to have to learn what the quick hits are. That'll be one that we talk about, everybody, previewing that. But we do want to make sure we give a great shout out to our sponsors. So, Fabian, do you have that queued up?
Yeah, let's actually go to commercial for a second, gather our wits, and then we're going to come back because we're going to talk about a very important bill that just passed in the House. We'll be right back after this. And guys, I do want to give a shout out to the people who help us pay the bills, Freedom Water, freedom2o.com. They're an incredible water company that really stands
Okay.
for the First Amendment. They help us do what we do and bring you this show and produce it and give you all the news that the mainstream is not going to give you, with the sides of opinion and independent thought that you're not going to get at a lot of places out there. So make sure you do support them. They have incredible water. They have reverse osmosis, UV treated, and Kevin, is there something it doesn't have?
There's from what I understand, there's no fluoride
I
in
was
this
about to say.
water. There's no fluoride in this water. So it's
Oh,
not
yes.
turning the frogs gay. It's not turning the fish gay. It's not turning you gay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else
Yeah.
you would want out of
No microplastics in your testes.
that.
Buy
No.
some of this for your gay friends because you probably need it.
There you go.
So make
There
sure
you
you go
go.
to freedom2o.com/USA. Help them, help us, help you.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, there's
Forget
something
about it.
incredibly important that I wanted to talk about because that is our next topic of the day. And it
Sure.
is that there is a anti-CBDC bill that has been passed in Congress. And a lot of people still don't know what CBDCs are. So let me kind of explain
Please
in a
do.
very simple way. But first, I want to read the article from The Hill that actually talks about this. So it says, the House passed a bill Thursday barring the Federal Reserve from issuing a central bank digital currency unless it has explicit authorization from Congress. The act passed the chamber 216 to 192. So many Democrats voted against this, which is absolutely despicable. It's largely symbolic as the Fed has not put forward officially plans to issue a CBDC. So even Trump has voiced concerns about potential government misuse of a CBDC. It's a digital version of a currency issued by a central bank. So some of the things that people say, and I'll go ahead and expand on this, is that a digital dollar could give federal government the ability to surveil Americans' transactions and choke out politically unpopular opinion. And our most astute Jedi, who is, I think, as old as a Jedi now, Maxine Waters from California, who is a ranking member of the House Financial Services Committee, argued that banning CBDCs directly threatens the primacy of the US dollar and says there is nothing inherent about a CBDC that would compromise privacy. That is a design feature that is within our control, she added. The bill is instead an attempt to stifle U.S. innovation and competitiveness abroad and to undermine the federal agency that is most critical to fighting inflation. So,
What?
most
Wow.
critical to fighting inflation. So let me explain to people who don't know what a CBDC is. Right now, when the Fed creates money, it gets distributed to banks, right? And once it goes to those banks, then those banks lend money, and then it ends up in your hands, right?
Right.
When the Fed creates a dollar and then gives it to the bank, they lose control over what happens with that dollar. When it goes to your hands, you transact all year round, you do business, you pay people, you do things, and at the end of the year, you're supposed to tell the government what you did with all that money that they printed. That's called taxes. Well, there is a big link from there's a big loss of knowing what happens to a dollar after it's created and then distributed to the banks. The CBDC would allow the government to any point in time be able to track any other digital currency that they have created because it would go directly to your digital wallet in your phone. And guess what? There will be separate monies, separate CBDCs for different things. Some will only be used to buy certain kinds of foods. Others will only be used to buy certain kinds of things. And guess what? If you, Max, bought too much meat this month, guess who's going to know that? The government. And if you're only allowed to impact the climate change by releasing a certain amount of CO2 or buying enough carbon credits, and you've maxed out your carbon credits, well, guess what? Your money does not work for the rest of the month to buy meat. And that is one of the most disastrous things happening in China with the digital yuan. It's happening in China to an extent that people don't have any freedom. They can't buy gas. They can't buy plane tickets, train tickets. And that is what this is all about. And I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you don't mind if I interject, Maxine Waters said that this is a federal agency. I'd like to correct her on that. She's a member of Congress. She should know very well that when the Federal Reserve Act was, passed into law, it never established the Federal Reserve as a federal agency. It's a private organization that makes, transactions lends to the government. In fact, they put money in the US Treasury. That's how it works. The US Treasury is part of the government. The Federal Reserve is not. I want to make that distinction. And what people do not understand is that what people don't understand is that it's private. It's private. They make monetary policy without authorization from Congress. And there's something in the US Constitution that says that Congress has the sole responsibility of furnishing coins, making currency, etc. That is literally written within one of the articles. I can't cite that off the top of my head, but there is, meaning that Congress should have that power. And because they don't have that power, the administration, the administrative state, the bureaucracy can say, go ahead and look into CBDC. And that's what they did. Biden signed an executive order back in 2022 saying, I want you to research CBDCs and look into how this can be implemented. So, what this bill did specifically was it banned the Federal Reserve from directly giving CBDCs to people, meaning like setting up individual accounts within those banks, the Federal Reserve banks, because there are 12 different banks. And it also banned them from indirectly giving it to people through, whatever bank you're with, like Chase, Wells Fargo, etc. I read the bill myself, so I understand the provisions and what exactly it's doing. They don't want the federal business really, they don't want the Fed really doing business, at least digitally, with the citizens at all. And like you said, they can just go ahead and track purchases. They can put quotas on stuff, and then if you're, passing the quota, you can get in big trouble. That's the issue: is tracking and control.
Yeah, I got to be honest, a lot of this goes very much over my head. It's not my expertise or my wheelhouse, but from everything that I can hear, I think that everything that I was hearing reminds me exactly of what the Ryan Mack show said, that we just pulled that comment up on the screen. Is I've seen that people are scanning their faces at stores to pay. I saw that in a video that I think I referenced even on Monday on our show. In Dubai, I saw that happening in Dubai, and I know that there's some people, and I know, Fabian, this is a conversation we still have to have about the advancement of tech and everything like that. And one of my biggest qualms with the advancement of tech is that I firmly believe the government will always utilize it and co-opt it for purposes of surveillance and then ultimately control. And that's really where I have a problem with all of this stuff, is it seems to be a lot of things that the average person, even me, who I like to think that sometimes I'm a little smart and in tune with what's going on with the government. I think they try to use all these like really, really complicated things, so it goes right over our heads, and they'll just say ultimately, oh, it's just for your convenience, and it's so that we can help you. And so and as we all know, Ronald Reagan said the scariest words anyone can say is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So that's where I think that's where I think it comes from. Is it's complicated. It's purposefully complicated. That's how the government works, so that they can control us.
There's something you said that's incredibly true. They try to insert the easeability into whatever they're doing to say, look at how easy it's going to be. Just for instance, the Australia digital ID video that we just released. One of my friends from Australia commented on my post and said, oh my gosh, I was literally signing up for this, and then I saw your video. Kev's have some technical difficulties, so he'll be right back. But she was saying, I just saw your video as I was signing up for the digital ID, and what they told me is that it's going to make things a lot easier. And it is, to a certain extent, but at what cost? At the cost of giving away all of your privacy to someone who can dictate what you do, when you do it, and how you do it.
I heard about this. I was actually told about that. And my prediction is, everybody knows, some people know about FedNow. It's a really interesting program where, they're testing out the CBDC. My guess is that the administrative state is going to try some sort of pilot program, because they don't necessarily need congressional authorization for something like that. They could be like, okay, let's come out with a little cryptocurrency. Let's have 1,000 people to test it out with. And then they can give us ratings at the end of it, and then they can give reviews and whatnot, and then we can just test. Like, basically, they'll use a very small sample of the population, sort of just like as lab rats, and then they'll put it out, they'll disperse it to everybody else. I think that's what the agenda is: start small, then get big. And I think that's what they're
as
gonna
you
do.
say that, let me actually pull up this, because you're absolutely right, and it's already happening. So the IMF which is the International Monetary Fund, which is basically they manage all the central banks all over the world
Right.
to a certain extent. They actually created a central bank digital currency virtual handbook because what they want is they want all of the countries to be in sync and to make it the exact same way. So they are giving structured
Right.
advice on how to create a CBDC. They have actually already created a CBDC and it is now considered legal tender. I don't know how in what world you have the power to just automatically create something and ensure that it's legal tender, but they have
Right.
done it. So this test
Mm.
case is IMF making these guidelines, sending them out to all the central banks around the world and say, we want you to make it like this because the IMF wants to have overarching control over all the CBDCs
Mhm.
traded all over the world.
Exactly.
And if you think that's not a point of centralization, it doesn't get any more centralized than that. Non-sovereign people who aren't, or sorry, non-citizens who are sovereign over your country's monetary policy and the literal printing and issuance of digital currency.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I mean, here's the thing. This right here just shows proof that they're going to transition to a digital dollar, right? I don't look at it as everybody's saying some collapse is going to happen. I look at it less of like as a collapse and more as a transition. It's going to be a transition to a digital dollar and eventually to a world currency. If the IMF is managing all these countries and dispersing one currency, they want something universal that everybody across the world can use. I think that's what we're looking at here.
Well, and here's the thing is
Mhm.
people are already saying, as Maxine Waters said, the astute Jedi, the dollar will lose its primacy. And what she means by that is China already has a digital yuan. And what they have been doing is they have been utilizing that for soft power. So right now, if the US wants to give
Yeah.
money to a country for aid, it has to go through a number of committees and then get voted on.
She's
And then it finally gets sent, and that's a long process, and it's a long process for a reason. So there's actual transparency and eyeballs. With the digital yuan, what China has been doing is they have been going to countries specifically in Africa and South America and saying, listen, you have a lot of crime. We have the cameras that we use in our country that have biometric data and a software behind it. We'd like to help you get your country in order. And guess what? Here's a loan, and all they have to do is press a button and it automatically gets sent to their wallet. This is Chinese money, Chinese digital yuan. Now these countries are indebted to China. They're buying their products from China. They're installing the software to China. And what we know, if there's one thing we know about China, is they like to have their bugs that spies on everything that they sell. This is why Huawei phones, they had a
yeah.
ban. I don't know if they still banned from being sold in the US because they found stuff like this. So they are using that, these high interest loans from CBDCs that they just digital yuan that they just created out of thin air, give it to these countries, and now these countries are indebted to China, and that's how you exert power and influence around the world with just creating a CBDC.
She's right. Yeah, she's right, and she's right, and she's wrong. The dollar has been losing its primacy essentially since we stopped backing it with an asset called gold. It's no longer backed by gold. Hasn't been for years. Hasn't been for decades. The dollar's been losing its primacy for a long time. So to act in that sense dramatic, where it's like, oh, if we just don't make this shift to virtual, it's going to be so much different. That just shows you the bad representative that she is. She's not representing her people. In fact, I'll tell you this. Representative Tom Emmer, he was the man that introduced this bill. He said that the Fed admitted in some form of documentation that their primary focus right now was to implement CBDC, even though the Fed chair Jeremy Powell was trying to tell a completely different story. So we know this is happening. It's a real thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got to be honest, this is not, like I said earlier, it's not my wheelhouse, but it's always so crazy to me. But even though it's not my wheelhouse, even though I'll admit I'm not as educated on this specific issue as you, Fabian, and you, Max. What I will say is that that's how a lot of Americans are. And the crazy thing that I feel like even a lot of Americans don't understand is that the difference between normalcy and absolute chaos is a 1 to a 0. And that's exactly and what I mean by that is when we look at the value of our currency,
Right.
our currency, as well as its comparative value to every other currency, a 1 to a 0. It used to be, like you said, it used to have a physical backing, the physical backing of gold. And now that we deal so much in the digital world, and we're even moving towards crypto, which is a debate in and of itself among conservative circles, currency now isn't even the cash you hold. It's shit that exists in the ether, like that you can't actually even see. And while to many it's again that idea of convenience, it's that idea that that there's a lot of good things that can come out of having it exist through the cloud, through your phone,
Right.
through debit cards, credit cards. Not having that physical backing means that the difference between normalcy and a destruction of the world is somebody accidentally typing in a 0 or
Yeah,
purpose.
so there's a that's a whole rabbit hole to go down, and I would love to go down it sometime, because the entire way that we just print currency, it's all a Ponzi scheme. It's the largest Ponzi scheme ever created in the history
Right.
of humanity, and it can't ever stop because of interest. And for anyone watching who is like, can I understand this in a very simple way? There actually is a way that I can explain it to you. You can understand it. If I print $1 and I loan you that dollar with 5% interest, how much do you owe me? A dollar
5 cents.
and 5. But where does that 5
$1.05.
cents come from if I only printed $1? That is a Ponzi
Right.
scheme. There is not enough money to ever pay back what is owed plus interest, because the interest does not exist in the present. It exists as an account, as a ledger that
Right.
goes
And
over.
right. And then they say we have to print more money to account for that interest. And so that's what keeps it going.
Scheme.
And so
That
then Congress approves these spending bills and all these things that really forces that to happen.
it
Really,
is
it does.
absolutely impossible. It is impossible to pay back all the money that everybody owes at
Thank you for
any point
saying
in
that.
time
Thank you
because
for
of the
saying that.
interest. And that is a Ponzi scheme. And that's why they keep trying to say, well, we need to collect more taxes. Well, everything is to, and then here's the
Wow.
thing with the financial systems, they add layers of complexity to make you think it's this grand system. But all they're really doing is they're trying to patch up the inadequacies of the system by adding more financial instruments and derivatives and all these fancy things. Like Kevin, you were saying, a lot of people don't understand, and they make it specifically hard to understand for that reason. It's just smart people who understand that the system is inherently a Ponzi scheme, try to add layers of complexity to delay the Ponzi scheme from exploding. And that's what we've been seeing all along.
Right. And let me, oh, sorry, go ahead. I think you looked
No, I was done. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this is your perfect excuse, everybody. If you're worried about getting that car because you're worried about going into debt, if you're worried about going to law school because you're going to go into a lot of debt, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't actually exist.
It doesn't exist. Thank you, Kevin. That's what I tell everybody who is stressed out over their credit cards. I'm like, your stress is real. The shortening of your life from stress is real. The money doesn't exist. The credit card companies are not going to lose because they just increased that doesn't exist. They just gave you something and
Right.
that doesn't exist, and you have to pay it back. If you don't, guess what? They write it off on their taxes at the end of the year, and they just pay less taxes on money they did make. No one losing.
Right,
You are the
exactly.
ultimate loser.
That brand new 2024 mid-engine Corvette, that's real. The money that you owe on it, nowhere to be found, man.
Right. That's exactly right. That's what people don't understand is standard deductions, and that's something that that debt gives you that advantage. Debt gives you that advantage of having a standard deduction, and that's why people should read the tax codes. The IRS the booklet is very big. I can't say that it's not. But you made a very good point. You said, "Look, we're never going to pay off this debt. Never. I don't care who you elect. I don't care who you elect. I don't care even if you put in Donald Trump. We're not going to pay off the debt because of the system that we're under." And right now, we have members of Congress, actually, I don't know if you saw, supporting a bill called, it's basically about ending the Fed, from Thomas Massey. He basically has 22 Republican co-sponsors. And I got to say this, if your representative isn't co-sponsoring that right now, you should probably fire your representative, because they're not representing you. They're representing the bureaucracy. They're representing the intelligence agencies. They're representing the deep state. I like to call them the deep state. That's who they're representing. They're not representing your district.
Yeah, there are literally tens of thousands of laws and bills And I really like what Elon Musk said quite a while ago. He said, if you want to make a good country, for every law that you pass, sunset 2 laws. I mean, it's really simple. You want to put a new law forward, find 2 that you're going to sunset, that you're going to eradicate, that are no longer laws. That's how you create a system where you have less bureaucracy. I think ending the Fed would be one of the most important things that we've done as a country since I believe its inception in 1913, which was basically a bunch of rich bankers like, Chase and Rockefeller and people like that just got together and said, hey guys, how can we control the whole damn thing?
Yeah, and
Well,
Paul
let's make a
Warburg,
boys
yeah.
club.
Absolutely. And
Wait,
there's
you guys, sorry,
somebody.
I have to announce something that
That's
just
what
happened.
that's
Okay, go
what
ahead. You
I
do it,
was
go.
gonna say.
Okay, you
There's
do it, go
one person this whole show I've just been wondering, what does he think? What does he think? What does he think? Especially as it comes to money. Our favorite Jew, David.
Hey, your favorite Jews here?
you go.
What's going on? Way to bring me in for the money segment, right? And Max,
That's
it's great to
hilarious.
meet you, man.
Money.
Hey, I appreciate that. Maybe you can get me in at Goldman Sachs. Just kidding.
I was just thinking, all my anti-Semitic jokes, I'm gonna just be like, don't worry, I have a Jew friend.
There you
Yeah,
go.
don't worry. I have a
Acknowledge-
Jew friend. There you go.
He runs Hollywood, he runs the banks, like he does it all.
I got
Hey,
it all.
good to meet you, man.
Good to meet you as well, Max. Been listening to this awesome segment. I literally just got home, so sorry that I'm a little fashionably late, but awesome segment so far. And hell yeah, that the bill or the House passed this anti-CBDC bill. I have to always say it slow. I rushed through it, and it ended up sounding like that alphabet soup mix that they got going on.
How do you say it, Kev?
Legibitica?
Legibitica. There you go. But no, this is awesome to see, honestly, because I feel like the whole point of cryptocurrency, or at least the decentralization aspect of it, the blockchain aspect of it, is to remove that third party from it. And that third party is always the federal government, right? So it's nice to see the federal government, because the House is part of the federal government, take the initial step that I would say to safeguard the whole idea of blockchain technology. Because again, the reason it was invented in the first place is to keep the federal government out of it. Well, damn, of course they said, I want a share of all of this enormous market cap, honestly.
The mob wants a cut.
The mob wants a cut, exactly. So it's great to see that. And I'm pretty sure this passed. Does anybody know the numbers? Like what was it?
Basically it was just straight down lines. It was, I think there was like 4 Republicans that voted present, and I can pull it up.
Yeah.
It was 216 to 192, so I would assume the majority that oppose are probably Democrats, because Republicans have the slim majority.
It's interesting. Why would Democrats, and this is kind of an open
You wonder
question.
why, huh?
Yeah, I wonder why. Does anybody know?
Yeah, because they all bang hookers, and they're all blackmailed.
It's kind of
Okay,
it's kind of a forecast.
Don't give Republicans that much credit. I guarantee
No,
you.
I
A
don't.
lot of
No,
them,
no, Republicans
don't.
too.
they
Republicans
bang
too.
hookers too.
Oh, absolutely. They're both
That's
dogs
maybe
on
one.
both sides.
That's maybe one good thing they've done out of this entire, out of the entire
Bang
2 years
hookers?
they've had almost now. But I will say this: this is kind of a forecast. I think this kind of shows you that once this gets to the Senate, it's probably not going to pass. It's going to stall on Chuck Schumer's desk. He's going to make sure it doesn't really get onto the floor or anything, I think.
Of course.
Absolutely.
That's what I was. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. 3 Democrats voted 4 voted not present.
I wonder what Bernie
No,
did.
18.
I wonder how
Bernie's
Bernie
in the
voted.
Senate. It's in the Senate.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I wonder how he's going to vote, because he's all about giving out free stuff.
Well, then
he's
that
all
would
about
be
the
AOC.
people.
Then you should be asking about AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, we
Actually,
all know.
it's funny that you say free, because honestly, when they start handing out central bank digital currency, I think that's how they're going to get people into it. Like, they're going to say, hey, if you get into it, you get like X amount in initial deposit to your account. Like, so
They're going to
you
do
can
that.
start
They're
off
also going to
in
make
purchases.
yes, they're also going to make expiration dates on certain money. So if you want to stimulate the economy, right? Say things are going a little slow. Hey,
Right,
guess
yeah.
what? Everyone, free money, but you have to use it in the next 30 days, or else it goes away. I mean, think
Well-
about that. You're adding gamification to an economy and saying, hey, everyone, go buy stuff you don't need, go buy junk, or do, I don't know, whatever it is. This money's only good for the bugs that you can buy now because of Klaus Schwab brand bugs. And if you don't, no organic stuff, it's not going to work for organic stuff.
Well, and that's
Mhm.
exactly the type of thinking that was enabled. And look, I know that we just spent a lot of time in the first segment talking about Donald Trump, how we like him. He's great, going to be a great president, blah, blah, blah. But one of my biggest criticisms of the man is the fact that he signed the bill that authorized the COVID relief checks. And
CARES Act. The CARES Act.
yeah, and to have that's opened the door to the idea of the government directly handing out money. And so when we talk about like, oh man, like they're going to offer these cash incentives to join this kind of stuff. Look, let's be honest with who kind of allowed that and who signed the dotted line to say that has some level of precedent in the law of the land. That was Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, we
But I
all-
feel like, go ahead, Max. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
go ahead. No, you go. You haven't talked much.
No, I've talked enough for being here for as long as I've been here. So far. But I was just gonna say is that I feel like there is a difference, though. Essentially, I agree with you that was
You're
a
right,
pretty
you're
bad
right.
precedent, but there was an emergency, right? So, but who knows? They can,
Yeah, but no
create any
no one
crisis.
cares about what the context was. We talked about that earlier too. Is no one cares about the context.
Mhm.
They don't care that it was an emergency.
That is
The bottom line, the shallow bottom line, is that the government handed out free money,
Right.
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
that's now we can do that. That's a thing that now we can do because of what Donald Trump signed.
Well, yeah. And that's a fact. Honestly, if Joe Biden was an ounce smarter than he was, instead of just like citing these random numbers and saying inflation was already at 9% when I got into office, he could say, look, the CARES Act was inflationary policy, and therefore it did partially contribute to the inflation that you're seeing now. If he was smart, he could campaign and say, look, Trump signed the CARES Act, he did, but he's not doing that. And then secondly, notice how like in this bill, it says that Congress can still authorize a CBDC. So, and a plot twist, Congress could just turn around tomorrow and say, we authorize a CBDC now. Well, they could, if they actually get this passed in the law, Biden signs, whatever, Congress can still ram a bill through that makes it so that we're under a CBDC because it says that this would put the approval in the hands of Congress. We already know all the sellouts in Congress. We already know how much of our freedoms they've taken away. They set us up with the Patriot Act. They set us up with all these different things. And then this could be the next thing. We don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
as you guys may or may not know, I'm the CMO of BankX, which is a silver pegged decentralized stable coin. And if that doesn't mean anything to you, just it's okay. But essentially, it was created to be the complete antithesis to the CBDC. Now,
Right.
here's what we've been saying for about 3 years now: is the plan is to print endlessly into oblivion, get everyone a quick fix, a little sugar rush, and then say,
Right.
look, America, we have a big problem. If you're American and you want America to continue as the most powerful country in the world, we have to go to a CBDC. We're at over $1 trillion in credit card debt. We're at $1.5 trillion in interest being printed just to pay interest, which I call it the rich man's welfare, because that's how they live, is off the interest. But if there's anyway, I don't want to get into that. The whole point is to give people the option, say, would you like to continue on regular fiat and collapse as a country? Or would you rather move to a CBDC and save America? It's the patriotic thing to do.
Yeah.
It's save America, everybody.
Right. You have a good point. The Federal Reserve is the greatest criminal cartel in existence because it's very out there and very hidden at the same time.
Yep.
And that's exactly it. And honestly, I've been thinking about it. Like, how are they going to be able to rush this through, even if, let's say, Congress blocks it? Well, they'll be able to create some sort of crisis. And by creating that crisis, they're going to convince the public that, like you were saying, Fabian, don't you want to save America? Well, this is the only way to do so.
Only way.
Yeah. And when creating that crisis, well, that's when you can use that precedent set earlier by President Trump, that the federal government can essentially, back to what Kev was saying.
Exactly, because if George Floyd hadn't taken the fentanil that got him killed
fentanyl.
that got him killed by the cop in Minneapolis, then he would have needed a CBDC to get him saved from that cop. That's the only way that we would have been able to do any of this. And also, COVID would have never happened. Like, literally, what is CBDC? Like, I'm sure we could come up with a joke acronym for what that would mean, in which it's like cop, black, death, COVID. There we go.
Look,
Exactly. That's why we need it, everybody. Right there.
yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the
That's
day,
funny.
if Saint Fentanyl had
That's a good one.
some CBDC where he can buy cigarettes, he wouldn't have to steal or use that fake $20 bill. I mean, it's just
Exactly.
so.
Exactly.
I know this just a little off topic, but I just saw something on Twitter. I think it was earlier today or yesterday, and it was a screenshot of the George Floyd infamous video we've all seen. And in the background, you have a picture of the gas prices at the time, and one of the gas prices is 99 cents a gallon. And they posted a screenshot of the whole video, obviously looking at the background, saying, "Wow, I remember good old America when the gas prices were low."
Wow.
I would kill for these prices.
I would kill for these prices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If George Floyd hadn't died, then Red Lobster would still be here. But
Oh, that's a hot take
we're,
right there.
we're going to get to a lot more hot takes.
Oh, interesting.
Coming up. We got a hot take coming up after this break.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're gonna go over can store owners shoot thieves? This is Max, everyone. So I'm really excited and interested to hear what you have to say right after this.
Blah, 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 blah. What are you talking about? Here, have some freedom to up. Now, the Constitution is awesome. Type 1A.
All right, I'm very excited to hear this because, well, and I think Max just left because this was his segment. Oh, there he's back.
Right back.
Okay,
No, it's just technical difficulty. real
so
quick.
I'm going to let you go ahead and take this and tell us one of your most interesting takes. Maybe not interesting, but to some people possibly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go ahead, Max.
Well, and I'll tell you, I got a liberal Democrat to agree with me on this one, surprisingly. Because, in the progressive states, I think we talked about this in Illinois, they're trying to call people justice impacted individuals. And you know what? They're following California's lead because California did it first. We did it a few years ago. We changed the language in the codes to start calling people justice impacted individuals. And
Oh
I
my
noticed
God.
that kind of language from legislators and
Max
stuff. So-
pulling out the ruler in the dick measuring contest.
Right. We gotta pull out the ruler right now. And you know what? I think when it comes to this, arrests and just aren't enough. They're arresting these people. They're giving them zero bail. They're letting them go out and steal again. Here, why don't you steal from one more store? Here, why don't you just go and kill one more person? And I think what needs to happen is these people that own the stores just need to be able to shoot the thieves that go into their store. And I heard a liberal say, but what if they go and steal toilet paper? What if they're stealing toilet paper? That sounds harsh. Shoot the crap out of them. And I tell you why. Because if one guy goes down, then the rest of them hopefully learn not to steal. I think if they see one guy bleeding out on the floor, they're like, holy crap. And I think we should be courteous enough to put a sign outside of every store that says, if you steal, you will get shot. Watch out for gunfire. F around and find out. That's what the sign should say. Just like I think we should have a sign outside of every school that says, if you come onto campus and you intend to harm the students, you will get shot. And I think that if we had that, it'll just take one person and no one will do it. And people say, well, a lot of people are going to die. You want a lot of people to die. I don't want people to die. The point is to use it as a deterrent. We're not aiming for people to die. But if you happen to die because you do it, well, then you deserve it. You deserve it for being a dumbass. I'm gonna put it that way.
Yeah,
you deserve it. So that's my take on that. I think that'll stop thefts. I think thefts will go down significantly, and I think it'll solve the problem.
So real quick, Kev, my question for Max is this: you don't think that it's a deterrence to say you can steal up to $999 and we'll let you go? That's not a deterrence.
I think it deters me from shopping and actually going to the person and buying my stuff. I think it deters me from doing that because it makes me think, why am I spending $300 at the end of a Target line when somebody can just walk out with the same items and not have a problem, not get prosecuted criminally, have nothing happen to them? So I think if we just had a law, that's all it takes. And in fact, I told my mom about this and she said, I agree with that. I do think that people should get shot. And she's a liberal Democrat. She said, I do think people should get shot if they're planning on doing that stuff. And I was actually at dinner with my uncles when she said this. And they accused her of being a MAGA Republican, even though that's not what she is, because she had this controversial take as well. And one thing that's really interesting is Trump came down to Southern California, and during his speech, he says that that's what should happen. And it's interesting because for months and months prior, I mean, I would say it was about 8 or 9 months prior to Trump saying this and saying that he supported that kind of position. That was a sentiment that I held very strongly. And I still hold it very strongly to this day. And I know he doesn't go around campaigning on it, but that's something I'd go around campaigning on eradicating theft. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it would be just a wonderful idea.
So here's really what we get down to when we talk about this, because I was thinking about this. So the way for everybody behind the scenes, if anybody wants to know what happens behind the scenes, is I was trying to come up with another topic for the show tonight. We could have gone with a lot of news stories or anything. Like, there's a lot of things to talk about, but I wanted to know, since Max was coming on the show, I said, what's your most controversial opinion? And this is the one that he came up with. And I was surprised. It was not like the first thing. I thought it was going to be like, I mean, like, what's considered controversial nowadays? Men are not women and women are not men. I thought it was going to be no. So this one surprised me, but I still got to say, Max, I'm mildly disappointed.
Why is that?
Because I don't think this is that controversial. Now, I think that the wording of it gets controversial, because when you say store owners can shoot thieves, yes, that gets controversial. But we know that a lot of liberal policy is just a language game. Offenders versus justice impacted individuals. The thing is that this would, I don't think that to a lot of Democrats, this would be that controversial if you said that a business owner should be able to protect their business from shoplifters. Most Democrats, again, there are some There are Democrats that believe in no cash bail, that believe in a lot of ways that enable crime. But when you take it to just that policy, most people believe, even Democrats believe, that you should pay for the goods that you receive.
Fine. I meant to say future justice impacted individuals. I just, my point
of what I'm saying is that
if you're a future justice impacted individual and you plan on doing something that will make you a future justice impacted individual, you should get shot. You should expect to get shot.
No, and so I'm not no. So what I'm saying is the reason why I don't believe this is controversial is because and it's a great opinion and I 100% agree with it. But I don't believe, because ultimately the opinion that you're holding is, and the sad thing is that if anybody does believe this is controversial, that's the sad thing. But it's because your ultimate opinion, the ultimate opinion that you're holding is, I believe in private property, and I believe in defending my private property, because the approximate opinion that you're also holding with this is stand your ground laws. Or that if somebody were to come into my house and threaten my family, threaten myself, then I should be, like, if somebody were to just open my door, then I should be able to defend myself. Your opinion, this opinion is not controversial. The way in which it's framed, or the way in which it's stated, sounds controversial. That's the way
you're right. There's castle doctrine, there's defending property rights, there's protecting your family, protecting your livelihood, and those are things that I strongly believe in and believe that many Americans believe in. But like you said, just by the way that it's said, MSNBC or CNN could come out on me. I make this statement at a very big event, and then they could misconstrue everything that I'm saying and make it like I'm an extremist or I'm a fascist or I support genocide of black people or whatever. Just like any nonsense they can come up with, they will peddle it, they will run with it, and that's just what'll happen.
So I wanted to wait to go last on this because I wanted to get all of your takes, and I love that I just sitting there and I'm listening, because there's a deeper reason why this is happening, and I think you guys know it. And if you don't, when I say it, you'll be like, because everything that you're saying is absolutely correct. Private property, castle law, defending your family, having morality, but there's a reason why this is allowed to happen, because essentially what is happening is a law is not being enforced, and when a law is not enforced, right, this kind of anarchistic, not even anarchy, it's just immoral actions, and the government goes in and says, well, I guess we need more government because the government failed, so we need to have more government. It's an ever-growing bureaucracy. But then you ask yourself, why is this even allowed to be to happen? And I actually want to pull up a story, and I'm going to give a shout out to Young Americans Against Socialism, because I was going through their blogs and I found this interesting article. And if you guys know me, I love learning about Marxism and the deepest reason why. So they have this incredible article about something called the lumpen proletariat. Okay, and I know it's a little small, so let's see if we can get a little bigger. But there's something called the lumpen proletariat, and it is seen as the most degenerate and low of low people in society. And so in Marxist ideology, the lumpen are considered the lowest group in society, so oppressed by the capitalist system, which include prostitutes, vagabonds, degenerates, swindlers, gamblers, pickpocket, brothel keepers, beggars, convicts, and criminals, are devoid
Okay.
of class consciousness, as Marx put it. He said, we cannot use these people. They do nothing for us. Well,
I
the
agree.
Germans,
Useless.
the Germans always figure
One
out a
thing.
way. So the Socialist Democratic Party of Germany figured out a way to make use
Yeah.
of the lumpen by enabling their degenerate behavior, lawlessness, drug use, prostitution, in order to further advance their agenda.
Interesting.
Then Mao Zedong picked up on that and used the exact same thing. Now let's cut to Herbert Marcuse, because Herbert Marcuse, who's the father of who basically mentored Angela Davis, who is a former she's a black lesbian feminist, ex-communist vice presidential nominee, who now we know whose family was actually on the Mayflower, who says that all the Americans colonized, etc. Okay, so Herbert Marcuse was a guy who mentored Angela Davis, and he, at the Frankfurt School, which was a basis of critical race theory, said that he hoped for a revolution of the lumpen proletariat, the social outcast, but led by intellectuals. Now, you tell me, that was in 1970. You tell me if you think that exact thing is happening now. Pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what do you call it? BLM, abortion, pro-abortion protests, all these things. Probably some of the most degenerate people, but funded by the most intellectual people. I would argue that Margaret Sanger was pretty intellectual, if you ask me. She's very pretty Planned Parenthood. She had these diaries and journals and listed all these things that she believed about a very specific group of people in America and how
Super
she felt
racist.
about them. Right, super racist.
Actually,
she's
super racist doesn't even do it justice. She's
but-
like the
but-
ultra.
But that's how you get an intellectual to lead non-intellectuals, because the non-intellectuals are dumb enough to listen to the intellectual that probably hates the non-intellectuals.
No,
That's
absolutely.
Margaret
Well,
Sanger.
I was even thinking about this earlier today. I think it was not just the Margaret Sanger thing, but the entire idea. And this is getting into a further thing, so I'll try to keep it brief. But the entire idea of intellectualism, of experts, of people in academia, everything like that. I've been told often that I think a lot, that I think too much, even in some cases. And that's not to say that I'm smart. My purpose for saying this is because there's a lot of people that think a lot, but the thing that makes somebody intelligent is what they're thinking about, because there are a lot of people that think a lot of things, but there are a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
And stupid shit. Like, and so
I want to clip.
go
Kevin
on
saying
Twitter.
bullshit.
Go on
Right.
Twitter.
Kevin,
Go
what
on
was it
Twitter.
again?
Bullshit. It's absolute bullshit.
Amen.
And so if you go on
Thank
Twitter,
you.
you can see a lot of these people that think a lot of things, and it's all bullshit.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you for that, because like you said, everything is spearheaded by intellectuals, meaning that so many people in this country believe that all truth comes from authority. Like, that's why they don't research stuff. Like, all truth comes from the top members of the top institutions, the top members of academia, the top people in the medical field. There's no science beyond that. There's nothing that can disprove any of these people. And many people will cite these people and say, well, because they have a doctoral degree, that makes them correct. That's an appeal to authority, logical fallacy. You're assuming that truth comes from authority. And normally what that kind of mentality leads to is a regime, because that's what regimes believe, that's what people that love regimes believe, is that all truth comes from the regime. It cannot come from another source. It cannot. That's what we're headed for.
The state's always right. Max, I want to kind of circle back to the beginning of this segment.
Sure.
You chose, I feel like at least you choose your words pretty carefully. You don't group Democrats into a single basket. You called your mom a liberal Democrat, which is why you said she agrees with these certain talking points that may be perceived a little bit more conservative. Do you believe that there's a difference between, let's say, a liberal Democrat and a progressive Democrat? Or is this all the same stuff?
I think that there are some differences. Yes, I do. I think that there are some fundamental differences. I think I think a liberal Democrat might have some concerns, like some valid concerns about the environment and whatnot. But I think that a progressive Democrat might go on about climate change and how we need to restrict people's freedoms and, like, do these climate lockdowns, and like how we need to all switch to electric vehicles. Whereas just, a pretty moderate kind of a Democrat will have some general concerns about, well, how do we farm and use less resources? How do we do these activities and use less resources? Not trying to be all controlling using the term climate change and, implement all these policies that are going to end up impacting people's choices.
Yeah,
But
I like that you
and
said
on
that.
this, I was going to just quickly say, Fabian, on this topic, do you believe that, like, I would say liberal Democrats align themselves more with the people on the right side, who obviously understand that, like, store owners shouldn't be able to allow $909 or $1,000 worth of stuff be stolen out of there? And are liberal Democrats basically more aligned with conservatives than they are with progressives on this issue?
You know what? I will have to say yes. I live in a state where the vast majority of people are concerned. I mean, there was a poll that came out from UC Berkeley showing that people, regardless of party in California, are relatively concerned about the direction that the state is heading in. This is Democrats and Republicans together.
There you go.
Now, I think, unfortunately, that the Democrats are getting what they deserve, because they're from their frame of view, they're voting for guys like Governor Gavin Newsom, and I am always asking them, like, why are you voting for this guy? You say you don't like this guy, but you're voting for him. Why is that? And they say, well, because we don't want an extremist MAGA Republican. And I'm like, well, then you're getting what you deserve. That's what you're getting. You're getting a guy that's pro-criminal. You're getting a guy that's pro taking away your right to drive a gas vehicle. You're pro a guy that's, getting into all these budget deficits, that's taking your money and doesn't know how to spend it. So you're getting
Max,
what you
here's
deserve.
here's what you should ask those people, and this is what I always ask people, because everyone has an idea of what a ultra MAGA conservative governor or whatever would be in office. The question that I always ask people whenever they make a statement like that, right, is I'm not going to assume I know what they mean or what they're scared of. I ask them, what would that look like to you?
Right.
Explain to me what an ultra MAGA governor, what would that look like? And allow them. Most of the time, they're not going to know what the hell. They have no idea what to say. But
Right.
what they
That's a good point.
say, you can say, okay, let's actually talk about that specific point, right? And this is how you have a conversation with people who have this preconceived notion of just the boogeyman is there, and if I don't vote for Newsom, it's going to be this ultra MAGA right. Okay, well, what's a world like that look like? Does it look like there's more law and order or less?
Yeah.
Okay, would you like that? Okay, so what's next? Because
Right.
it looks like you're in agreement with me. What's next? Right? Lower taxes? Is that a bad thing? Right?
Yeah.
And then you get people to be like, you know what, actually, and then this is how you expose them to things without directly confronting them and say, you're stupid, you're wrong,
Right.
liberalism is dumb, or whatever it is.
No, absolutely.
Right.
And even with that, I even just building off that briefly is I call it the what is a woman defense, because every time in What is a Woman, I'm not even kidding you. Every time in What is a Woman, when somebody would be like, well, a woman is a woman or something like that, Matt Walsh would be like, but what
Circular
is
reasoning.
that? And that's
Yeah.
what I say all
Yeah.
the time. I was in a Twitter fight earlier today that was like, you're a Trumpist, fascist, neo-Nazi. And I go, what is that? And that's what I always do. I always just ask, what is that? What do you mean? And then they're like, the fact that you don't know means you need to educate yourself. And I'm just like, that is the most bullshit way of saying I have no idea what I'm actually saying. It's exactly
or they make a statement and then you ask, what do you mean by that? And then they say, look it up.
Yeah.
That's their go-to. Like,
look it up. I don't have time.
Fabian
time
gave
to explain.
excellent advice. Fabian gave excellent advice because he said, why don't you inquire, instead of assuming what they're saying? And you're right, because many people will get behind the idea of law and order. And the polls are showing that many Democrats, and I believe that there are many reasonable Democrats out there. I believe that if they're not under the hypnosis of the mainstream media, you can find some very reasonable people. And the polls show overwhelmingly that they're pro-cop, they're pro-law and order. They want to see criminals in jail. They want to see them in jail for a very long time. They don't want all these mass releases of violent criminals that you're seeing these days. And that's what the polls are showing. But they're voting, to the left because the left is doing all this fear mongering about, well, if you vote a different way, then you're just going to get hell. And we know that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is this: is leftism and liberalism cannot coexist. It's inherently
Right.
the
Right.
antithesis of each other. Liberalism, for anyone listening, right, is individuality, make your own choices, whereas leftism is give all of the power to the state to make the decisions for you. They cannot coexist. And the more that liberal Democrats or more center of the road Democrats give inch by inch to these leftists, the less their party looks like their party. I used to vote Democrat for a very long time. I can tell you, I haven't really changed what I think, right? I've always been a social conservative, and I've been economically a little liberal. And I can tell you that my views really haven't changed, but the party has changed so drastically that it no longer resembles anything of what even your parents or your grandparents' Democratic Party look like.
Yeah.
That's an
now they want
interesting mix. I've never really heard of anybody who's
I've-
socially conservative and economically liberal.
I
That's
know.
Because
I've heard
let me tell you
the
why.
other way.
Let me tell you why, because I understand that the entire money thing is a Ponzi scheme. And
Yeah.
once you understand that, then then what I want is fundamental changes to happen to the monetary system to actually work for the
Mhm.
people instead of us working to pay the interest of the rich welfare recipients, which is people who just earn all the interest. That is what I mean by economic liberal. I want everyone to be in control of their own finances and not be beholden on a Fed that can change policy whenever they want.
Yeah, you sure you don't want to give me reparations for all the Mexicans that were killed in the Mexican-American War?
Hey, you better give my family some too. We came from Cuba, so I'm sure we can sneak in somewhere. So we're good.
And while you're at it, throw me some money for my family coming from the USSR.
There you go.
There you go.
Kevin,
But-
we'll all give you a little bit of our money because that's how we
Yeah, I
roll.
was gonna say my
It's
people
coming out
came
of
here.
Jeff's pocket,
My
right?
my people came here because of the Irish potato famine, and so
No.
yeah, I'm not the colonizer either, people. Like I'm just
Well, it don't matter. We'll just throw you in the bunches. You're white. That's fine.
Colonizes farms to grow potatoes.
Yeah.
That's
Well, you
what
have
we call it.
colonizer mentality, so that's
you
close
racist fucks. Like
There you
geez,
go.
It's bullshit, Kevin, right?
it's bullshit, absolute bullshit. All right, speaking of other shit,
enough.
Yeah.
Kev's
Don't
quick
get 'em.
hits,
Guys,
right?
I think I think something's coming up. Kev,
Kev's
you gotta give
quick
me a little
hits.
warning.
Did you know if the hits are quick enough, then you can't have a warning because these hits
Ah.
got to be quick.
That's very
We're
true.
all-
Kev was getting that fired up. Fabian, I thought you were ready for it.
Come on.
I was not ready whatsoever for anything that was happening.
I know you're not because I can even see. So that's why I'm going to stall until we can get this next thing pulled up because this next thing is the fat girl problems. Everybody, I don't know if you guys have heard about plus size travel.
Oh man.
Southwest Airlines offering free seats and stupid shit. Well, now there's a plus size traveler.
Another
who's
example
an
of why
activist. Let's take a. We'll just see what she has to say. Let's just look.
Yeah.
training, a demand outlined in the plus-size travel petition is desperately needed. I'm a plus-size wheelchair user and on a recent flight to the SeaTac airport, I requested wheelchair assistance, as I always do. When it came time for me to deplane, I saw the employee who would be
God.
assisting me with my wheelchair waiting for me in the entry of the jet bridge. As I approached her and she realized she'd be assisting me and not one of the smaller passengers, she started to walk away with the wheelchair while making comments about my size. Even when I told her I really needed the chair and needed her to let me sit down in it, she blatantly ignored me and kept walking. I was then forced to walk up one of the longest jet bridges I've encountered and she didn't stop. By the time she let me reach the wheelchair and sit down, my lips were white. My oxygen levels had dropped and I almost fainted. This was my first time flying without oxygen. This woman just assumed I could walk and would rather me do that, instead of her having to push someone my size up the jet bridge. All the other attendants wheeled their passengers up the jet bridge, but my needs were disregarded. This is discrimination. Nobody should be treated this way. Share your story at change.org/size travel.
Oh my!
There's a
on.
website for it too.
All right. So, long
Wow.
story short, fat woman was not allowed to use a wheelchair. Somebody wouldn't push her in a wheelchair. Look, personally, I think even a fit person, somebody who's relatively fit, would have a hard time pushing that tub of lard in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it was a blatant like, oh my God, you're too fat. I think it was like, we probably can't physically do this, you bowling ball. But what do you guys think?
So I want to say two things. Number one, the fact that she was too tired to make her own voice and she used the computer voiceover says so much about her. Second, I forgot what I was going to say.
She was breathing pretty heavily as she was making that.
She was typing too much. It was too much of a workout.
It's like,
Second, I think, and I've always said this, fat people should have to park further away from where they want to go and walk further away to help them lose weight. You're actually helping these people. Why enable them by giving them handicap parking in the front so they walk less steps to go buy their hamburger? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, make them walk more steps. Exactly. Lose the calories. And first of all, that's not a plus size woman. That's a literal behemoth. That's a behemoth, like the Bible says. It's a little behemoth. That's probably what that is. And, honestly, did they really give her 2 seats for free? It looked like she was sitting like on top of the other seat.
They have to now, right? I think if you're this big, you're like required now by law to buy the second seat.
She'd be one of the few women I'd ever have to tell back off.
Absolutely. Have you guys ever seen the movie Seven?
No.
Yeah, with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, with Brad Pitt.
Absolutely.
So that the whole premise of the movie, to keep it short, is that there's a serial killer that kills people based on the 7 deadly sins. And so the one that's based on gluttony, the serial killer overfeeds this man, a man who eats too much. And I'll tell you, this woman is larger, or at least looks larger than the person they fill, or the doll they filled full of prosthetics to look like it had died from overeating. Just saying. Speaking of gluttony, we're going to talk about people who smoke weed next. 2 major marijuana studies. The first one is daily marijuana use outpaces daily drinking in the United States. A new study says. Yes, for real. This is out of the Associated Press. Daily marijuana usage has actually, for the first time, the number of Americans who use marijuana just about every day has surpassed the number who drink that often. A shift some 40 years in the making as recreational pot use has become mainstream and legal in nearly half of the states. And because this is quick hits, you guys can go check out all the statistics and everything about this, but that gives you the general gist. I want to get to the next story with marijuana because I want to connect these two. Within the same day that study was released, this NBC News article comes out. Teens who use marijuana are more likely to suffer psychotic disorders, a study finds. Teenagers who use cannabis within the last year had a dramatically higher rate of developing a psychotic disorder, according to a study published today. Research from Toronto found 11 times higher risk of developing psychotic disorder in teenagers. This is absolutely insane. These are things that we've known for a long time. Marijuana usage is linked significantly to mental health concerns, to physical health concerns. We even knew, and while it's become a meme, like this is your brain on drugs with the dare and the fried egg and everything like that. We've known these things. But isn't it crazy how within 24 hours we get 2 studies? First, that marijuana usage in the United States is up more than daily drinking, and that it's also linked with psychiatric disorders.
Well, what if it's up more than daily drinking because teenagers can't drink? And so instead of drinking, they're using marijuana and they're getting those marijuana levels up because they can't do it. But it's like, folks, I got to talk to my peers here. Stop sneaking off into the bathrooms and smoking blunts. That's ridiculous. It's like Andrew Tate said, breathe air, breathe air, breathe air. Just breathe a little bit of air. All right. Don't harm your lungs, please. Do me a favor, or don't do yourself a favor. I don't know. I plead with you. I plead with you.
My take on this is a little bit interesting because, listen, we've seen alcohol kill tons of people. Obviously, I believe that DUI is still the highest homicide, like the reason why so many people die in America every year, right? And I don't think that there's a single person or study that we've seen where a person directly died from marijuana. So good in a sense, because I don't think that you drinking daily is a good thing. But if you want to puff some marijuana on a daily basis, I guess that's fine if we're looking at the studies and whatnot.
Yeah.
My perfect world obviously would have them doing neither of that stuff, but obviously we live in a world of not Democrat utopian mindset. So this is a good thing, in my opinion. I don't know about the whole teen thing. I'd have to look at the research like more in depth and whatnot. Obviously, we've seen them manipulate things and whatnot. And obviously, marijuana becomes legal like fully in every single state. Who's that going to impact the most? Big Pharma. We know Big Pharma likes to control a lot of the studies, researches, data that's being published. So who knows?
Interesting. Maybe that's a debate for a debate night, because we definitely have some interesting thoughts on there. Fabian, I want to get your take.
I love this. I think people should smoke weed instead of drinking. Alcohol is one of the worst
Really?
poisons and the most addictive drug other than heroin. And I believe cocaine is right up there with alcohol. It is a cause of so much family problems, domestic abuse, murder, just a lot of bad things. It's legal because they make tons of money off it, and you have one
Taxes.
drink and it lasts you about 10 minutes. So if you're thinking about it from a corporate standpoint, I can serve a shot of vodka to someone or a drink every 10 to 15 minutes. But someone who smokes weed is going to have that one pen for like 2 weeks. So there's not as much money to be made. I love this. I smoke weed, and I think anyone who's getting super drunk on alcohol, try weed. You're not going to go do some stupid stuff like you do when you drink alcohol or
Oh
black
my
Yeah,
out.
I don't know. I
gosh.
mean,
See,
I
this is a crazy thought. Max, you go, because I'll finish this off.
so I mean, it's like I watch Biden's speeches and I think, what the hell is he on? Maybe he bought a lot of this. I mean, he says he reduced the budget deficit, so maybe he just did it by buying up all this weed. I don't know.
See, I hear this, and this needs to be a debate topic for us, because as an Irish Catholic, I love my alcohol, and I've also, I will admit, being from Illinois, I've partaken in marijuana usage, and there's been one that's had a much more negative effect on my life, and it's not alcohol. And also, as a former smoker and nicotine addict of cigarettes, vapes, and those kinds of devices, I'd argue, even out of all of them, nicotine is one of the worst substances for you. And I know that one came out of left field, but I think this is something that we should definitely dive into outside of a quick hits thing, because as I'd rank them, I'd say nicotine worse than marijuana, and then alcohol. That's the way I see it. And when we talk about DUI and DWI, is depending on what state you're in, they talk about it differently. They just classify the name of it differently. DUI actually is driving under the influence, and so actually, technically, marijuana instances are included in DUI statistics.
That is true.
So I just want to.
Kev, the one question I'll leave you with for the night, and
Yep.
we can explore it again on debate night, is, all right, at least in my opinion, based on research that's public, right? You can say that there are cons for alcohol and cons for marijuana, but there are pros for marijuana, and I can't necessarily say, or at least find, or maybe you can say it now, a pro of alcohol.
Oftentimes they do say that small amounts of alcohol daily or weekly can help with different things, just as much as they always come out and say, like, oh man, like
a glass of wine a day. What is it?
Exactly.
A glass of wine a day keeps the doctor away.
yeah, there's different
I
things
think that was
come out.
Apple a day, but yeah,
And they
wine,
twist
wine too. Like
the
They do
suburban
say
moms
glass of
twisted
wine.
it.
There's a lot of different instances. It depends on it's just like you said, depends on the study you read, depends on who you ask. There's definitely a debate to be had on a medical benefit to alcohol, just as much as there's a debate to be had on a medical benefit to marijuana usage.
That'd be
and guys,
interesting.
quickly, I just pulled this up because I wanted to show the 10 most addictive drugs. Obviously, heroin is number 1, cocaine number 2, tobacco number 3, barbiturates and methadone, which aren't I mean, they're used widely. But then right after that, you have alcohol, and alcohol is more addictive than benzos, amphetamines, which is meth. I don't even know what that is, and ketamine. So nowhere on this list is marijuana. So if we're looking
Ketamine?
at the most addictive, ketamine could be very addictive to people. I know people who are addicted to ketamine.
We need to have, ketamine's actually really flipping good, I'll tell you.
Isn't that a horse tranquilizer?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
when I broke my ankle, I got a legal dose, medically of ketamine, phenomenal high. I'll tell you. I mean, it was amazing.
That's hilarious.
Could totally see why somebody gets addicted to it. We need to have this debate. This is what we're talking about next Tuesday. We're going to invite as many people on. We'll get a panel next Tuesday. We're talking weed. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay.
I like it.
In the meantime, though, we got to get to more quick hits. And this is one I think we'll all agree on. The majority of the House Democrats vote against barring illegal immigrants from voting in D.C. elections. I think this was a really interesting story out of today that a lot of people got overshadowed by other things. But so in D.C., up until basically today, it was allowed where illegal immigrants could vote in their municipal elections. But over 140 House Democrats voted against a bill.
Wow.
From Representative August Flufker, I don't know how to actually say his last name, a Republican from Texas, that would safeguard Washington, D.C.'s municipal elections by barring non-citizens like illegal immigrants from voting. So the legislation passed in the House with a vote of 262 to 143, with every Republican House member and 52 Democrat members voting in favor of the bill. So we talk a lot about what do liberal Democrats want and progressive Democrats. Well, 143 House Democrats said that illegal immigrants and non-citizens should be allowed to vote in municipal elections in Washington, D.C. We're not even just talking about like Timbuktu, Washington State or Oregon or some liberal bullcrap. No, like the place in which our capital is. They're saying 143 Democrats think that non-citizens should be allowed to vote there. What do you guys think?
Well,
This is the plan. That's been the plan.
it's been the plan, and I want to know Mac's thoughts, actually.
Well, it said 262, and that means that there were some Democrats that joined the Republicans there. And I think that that's because they got a feeling that they got to represent some of the people that, on their side that are starting to be like, oh, well, I think we should mass deport all these people. Never mind letting them vote, Like they're saying that they can't vote illegally. That's not possible. That's a MAGA conspiracy theory, whatever they say to discredit that. But it's like people weren't allowed to come into this country, and yet they're here. They weren't allowed to stay, and yet they're here. Look at them. And there's actual U.S. code, which I don't understand. Why are they repealing D.C. law instead of U.S. code, former U.S. code? There's Title 18, which allows for certain exceptions for illegal alien voting. And one of those exceptions is if a state or municipal body enacts some sort of law that allows illegal immigrants to vote. And I got fact check on this, even though this is actually in the code. And so if Congress was actually going to do something here, I read the bill. It doesn't repeal that code. It just repeals, that law in DC. When I think that if they're actually going to try to prevent illegals from voting, they should repeal that law and they should repeal the code. And if they repealed the code, they'd essentially repeal the law. They repeal any laws that are on the books in different states and cities that allow for illegal immigrants to vote. Because as you know, DC is not the only municipality that tried allowing illegals to vote. New York City did it too. So then it would have said New York City. They would have said New York City. That's unconstitutional. You can't do that. I don't know why they're not taking it that far. Maybe they're staff members, because I don't think that the majority of members of Congress know the code by heart. I don't think that they're very expert at the code. They probably don't even know many federal laws. They probably have to have someone brief them on stuff and say, hey, I noticed something here you might want to change. You can make a bill out of this. Like maybe no one has come up to them and said, hey, I noticed something here in Title 18, which says illegal immigrants can vote with the approval of city and state governments. You need to change something here. So that's not happening. And so I don't think it's good enough as it is. I don't think it's good enough. That's my controversial take probably. So
Absolutely. David?
I wouldn't say it's that controversial. And my lawyer friends, Max, I don't know. Are you in law? All right.
No, I'm
Sounds
in,
like
I'm
it.
in poli-sci, but I'll be
Oh,
close
welcome
enough
to the
'cause-
Poli Science Club.
Yeah.
Well, and
1
Kev,
year.
I know I was looking at you as well. So maybe maybe you'll find out for us. But would federal statute essentially supersede the municipal
Yes.
law?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually,
It always does.
federal law, because DC is like a municipal corporation, but it's like the DC as a city is under the control of Congress under federal law.
DC is its own.
DC
Yeah,
Like an
DC's
autonomous zone.
Yeah.
DC used to have a governor rather than a mayor.
Yep. Yep.
way back in the day, back in 1871, when they made the, you know, the whole government corporation, whatever people want to say, thing that happened there, whatever. I don't go deep into that, but basically at that point they had a governor. They had a governor for a couple short years. Then after that they started just having mayors.
And that's
And
all smoked crack.
DC has always been a territory that's not considered necessarily part of the United States. And so they've always had their own, you know, mayor, their own government, their own whatever. And anytime that they pass a city ordinance, Congress can just come in and say, we can override any ordinance that DC passes. That's
Oh,
a
that's
federal
great to
law.
know.
That's
Yeah,
legit.
DC
And so that's what they're doing here.
statehood has
Yeah.
been a constant debate with DC. DC's law is
Garbage.
its whole it's its whole like area of law in and of itself, because by and large 100%, I mean always federal law trumps local state law in whatever way. So an example would be the one that always comes up in Illinois is, so like if a federal police officer were to pull you over in the state of Illinois and they found weed on you, they could arrest you for utilizing weed. However, if a state police officer or a local police officer in Illinois pulled you over and saw weed in your car, they could not necessarily pull you over. Obviously, if they saw you smoking it, it'd be different based on the local law. But because federally weed is illegal, a federal police officer could charge you federally for marijuana possession. A state and local officer could not. And I know we weren't even talking about weed, but that's just usually like the best example of how federal law trumps and supersedes local law everywhere.
I
Yeah.
know we're on Kev's quick hits, but just
Yeah.
a quick question, because I'm sure you'll love this law question. What about the fact that there's like local, like municipal laws that allow, for example, public nudity on beaches, for example, when the state law and even the federal law, I believe, prohibits public nudity, yet local municipal laws actually triumph the federal law or even state law not allowing women to be topless on beaches, for example.
Yeah, it
Oh,
depends on the law,
Uh,
because really laws are only as legitimate as they are being enforced.
Oh, well, there you
Or
go.
not enforced. Exactly.
Or not
Guys,
enforced, right?
quickly, guys, I just want to give a shout out to well, while we're talking about DC, I want to give a shout out to Mayor Marion Barry,
Barry.
former mayor known for smoking crack, dead at 78. Now he didn't die the other day. This is 2014, but I
Yep.
just wanted to just highlight something, that he'll be remembered for a single night in downtown Washington in a hotel room in a video that showed him lighting a crack pipe in the company of a much younger woman. When FBI agents burst in, he referred to her with an expletive and said, "She set me up." So I just wanted to do just a rest in peace to Marion Barry, and that's my quick take.
That's insane. Okay, well, we still have some more quick hits to get. We're gonna talk. I mean, we got a lot that in these quick hits apparently that we need more time for, and so we will get to those maybe even tomorrow on a Friday stream. I don't know. Just make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, and comment. But I want to talk about this one real quick. We touched on this earlier, like an hour ago. This is The View today talking about Caitlin Clark. Take a look and listen.
Caitlin Clark is bringing this money, these sponsorships, we hope, into the league, and other players will benefit from it. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive. And unfortunately, there still is that stigma of against the LGBTQ plus community. 70% of the WNBA is Black. A third of the players are in the LGBTQ plus community. And we have to do something about that stigma. In this country, I think that people have a problem with basketball playing women that are lesbian.
Yeah.
See,
Wow.
okay, so I have a quick thought on this one, but I want to hear your guys' first. Maybe you guys will get it before I do. Okay, start with Max. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I do think that sports to some degree does make females kind of hyper masculine. So I can see that sort of element of, lesbianism sort of developing in that sport, especially if the sport is more aggressive, and basketball is a pretty like aggressive, hardcore kind of a sport. So I could see that, they're all like together and they're not really used to being around people of opposites. I don't know how many crazy deranged, extreme feminists there are in the WNBA, but I could definitely see a very a very crazy sport. It's not crazy in a bad way, but you know what I mean. Like basketball, hyper masculating females and then also making them want to, kind of be with each other. I don't know. I don't really know if that's a.
I got you.
Anyways.
I got you, David.
I was just wondering while she was talking, how much would her point of view change if Caitlin Clark was originally a white male that transitioned to be a woman,
Oh,
and just so happens, right? And just so happens to be white. How would that fit in their identity politics dilemma? Because it's a real situation, right? Like if Caitlin Clark was a biological dude that just so happened to identify as a woman, what would this idiot on The View say then?
Like if she so happened to create her own bonus hole? Oh god.
Okay. Well, Fabian, on that note, what are your
That's
thoughts?
a woke term.
Listen, mine's not going to be much better because I was going to say with 1/3 of the players identified as lesbian, the WNBA is layups and rug munching. But I will say that she's actually right about the first part, guys. If she's more attractive because she's a female and she's white and she's hot. Like, yeah, duh. I mean, what is that a bad thing, right? Like, okay, so.
Apparently, you're supposed to stand
understand.
up for women, but unless they're hot and white, then you can't. So
Fabian got like 95% of what I was about to say. You know, for once, I will agree that the reason why Caitlin Clark is somebody that people want to watch is in part due to her identity characteristics. It's the same reason people wanted to watch Jackie Robinson. It's the same reason people wanted to watch Jackie Robinson. It's the same reason. Why? Because when the majority of the league, as Sonny said, is black, gay, whatever, all these other, like all these things, and you have somebody that defies that narrative, it's fascinating. It's interesting. It's just like when you have black players in ice hockey, people are like, oh man, that's kind of interesting. It's different. It's new. People are interested in what's different and new. It's not because of white supremacy or anything, as Sonny would probably go on to articulate as best as she possibly could with her collective brain cell that she shares with everybody else on that panel. No, it's because people are interested in what's new, what's different, what's exciting, what's shiny. And Caitlin Clark is the flavor of the month and honestly, probably of the year because she is different. And that's exactly what it is. Okay, final quick hit coming up here. I don't know if we have, I think we're done on that one. Let's get to the final quick hit here. We're going to get back to fat people drama here because I want to end where we started off. I want to end where we started off.
Always.
Yes, this is fat people drama. I tweeted about this one. Let's take a look and a listen as what this fat person had to say about fat people shit.
So, as a fat person, I often dread medical appointments because of blatant medical fat phobia. The last OB appointment I went to, the provider blamed everything on my weight and told me that I needed to go on a medication that made me feel really terrible. This OB appointment that I just went to, I've been dreading, and the provider was amazing. She asked me what my pronouns are. She asked me about my name. She made me feel super comfortable, asked me about my trauma history so that she knew how to touch me in ways that were not harmful. She just was like great. And I was crying before getting my blood drawn because I just never have good experiences with medical providers. And so, I don't know, I just wanted to share.
Okay. What are your guys' thoughts? Fat girl. Keep that up too, because I want to play just a little bit of part of it when I end this out. But what are your guys' thoughts? Fat lady, medical providers, everything.
Honorable guest. Let's go.
Yeah. Max.
Oh man. I don't know what she's complaining about, to be honest. I don't get this. This is like the people during COVID that were like morbidly obese telling me to wear a mask, telling me what it was like to be healthy, even though they didn't look healthy themselves. So these people are tyrants in their own little way. They want to rule the world, they want to run the world, but they just looks like they're having a really hard time and they're getting frustrated. I mean, what else can I say? I don't really have much empathy, when you've put yourself in that position, when you've overindulged, when you're, a glutton, whatever you want to call it. That's just how I feel. I'm sorry. I'm not like the most sympathetic guy when it comes to that. I can't really feel for you when you have done all the work, or not working out so much to get to that point.
Yeah. Hey,
Sorry.
Max, I share your opinion. I mean, look, I'm not that sympathetic for people like that sit there with their phone in their hand and record how they complain about
Yeah,
things that are tailored to them at the end of the day.
exactly.
It's like, listen, nobody forced you to be in the situation that you're in right now. It was a choice that
Exactly.
was done by you. And now it's pretty honestly disgusting to see you spill all of your emotions in front of the phone, and we're supposed to feel bad for you. The one, like, to go back to the video that we started with Kev's quick hits, instead of complaining all that stuff, like, this is a perfect time to start to understand that your choice has brought you here. You're ashamed of it. You don't feel comfortable with it. All right, time to start to have a different lifestyle. Time to change your lifestyle around. So that's just my quick hit. I can't stand that stuff.
My
Yeah.
quick hit is if you want to, this is exactly what is spoken about in this incredible book called Cynical Theories by Helen Pluckrose and James Lindsay. And one of the chapters in here is called Disability and Fat Studies. So it's a really interesting thing because all of these all these ideologies, all these leftist ideologies, a lot of it is imaginary, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel a certain way. It's my lived experience. Well, you can't say that you're not fat as hell because you actually have gravity and volume and mass, unless you change the way mathematical formulas are calculated, which they're also trying to do. But the problem they're having with disability and fat studies is that it's incredibly hard to tell someone that you're not fat or that you're not healthy. So as a doctor, you don't want to, you have to tell them the truth that you're incredibly unhealthy, that you have a high risk for cardiovascular disease and all this other stuff. But if
Right.
you're a woke doctor, you don't want to tell them that because they may get offended. So what do? You tell them you're
No.
healthy.
If,
And it especially doesn't work for people who have actual disabilities, because it's gotten to the point where you have people which have autism, cerebral palsy, and you have people on the left saying this is the hierarchy and this hetero like world that we live in is telling you something's wrong with you, and they're like, no, I actually have like cerebral
so,
palsy. And they're
Yeah.
saying, no, you don't. It's what they want you to believe, and it's not really
Interesting.
working in that group of people.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
And I think you hit a lot of the points there. I want to bring it back up. Can we play it just for like 5 seconds? Because there's like 2 main points that I wanted to make with this. Play for like 5 seconds.
So, as a fat person, I often dread medical appointments because of blatant
Yeah.
medical
All right, stop. You can
fatphobia.
pause it now. So you hear how she breathes. You hear how she breathes. A healthy person does not breathe like that, sitting down, talking. Like a healthy person does. So I don't want to hear this bullshit about medical fat phobia or whatever that even means, because you are not healthy. Like, it is clear you are not healthy. A healthy I just hit my mic. I'm sorry. I know that I was told not to do that. Mein Führer Fabian, but a healthy person does not breathe like that. A healthy person does not breathe sitting in a resting position, just talking to a camera. A healthy person does not breathe like that. And this is something that really pisses me off. In the last year, I have lost 50 pounds by walking and running. I have barely entered a gym. I have only ever gone into a gym when the weather has been too bad, so that I've had to. Walking, running, and paying attention to your diet, and you can lose weight. And so it pisses me off so much when people are like, they're fat phobic. No, everybody literally says you could be a smoker, you could be a drinker, you could smoke weed, you could literally do heroin. And you want to know what would be healthier for you? Losing 5 pounds. I'm not even kidding.
No, you're 100% it.
Look at all the science. Losing 5 pounds is healthier than pretty much anything else you could quit or anything. Like, losing 5 to 10 pounds decreases your risk significantly of heart attack, stroke, medical complications, cancer, everything. Your weight is so important.
I hate seeing people get on TikTok to cry or complain about their life or something. I mean, I see it so much in my feed. It's so annoying. Like, I barely go on TikTok, but when I do, it's just full of people crying about stuff, complaining about their lives, complaining about this ex or that ex or this new job that they're at, or like this girl about how fat she is. Trust me, if I was her woke doctor, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'd tell her to get the new Lizzo album right away. Get it on Apple Music. Listen to it.
I
know,
don't
this-
know
If I
why.
was the non-woke doctor, I'd say listen to. I'd say you're fat. You need to work out. You need to lose some weight, and then tell her to listen to Lizzo. Truth hurts. So either way, she'd be listening to Lizzo. That fat girl.
Absolutely. And
She
for
learned a lesson.
tonight, everybody, those are Kev's quick hits.
Boom, boom.
Kev, you got
Absolutely.
You
that's,
got to give us a little.
hold on.
Okay.
Kev, you gotta say that one more time.
Those are Kev's quick hits. And I believe that's the show for tonight, too. We've gone so long, and I've had a lot of fun with it, but that is the show for tonight. Any final words from our panel?
You can find me on Outraged Teen on every single platform: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Just look up Outraged Teen as if someone's outraged, like angry. Outraged Teen. Find me over there. Max Binney is my name, and look forward to seeing you over there. God bless. God bless everybody.
Thanks,
That's
man.
awesome. Thanks, Max, for joining us. And I know it's a little late, so appreciate you letting me in here. And broke from the jail, basically. I'm in there.
My last thing I want to say is, Caitlin Clark. Hey, that's all cool, but you got to shout it out to the granddaddy, the original white chocolate. If you don't know who this is, he was the original player that had such silky smooth handles that they literally call him white chocolate. Jason Williams. If you want to check out the original stuff, check out his handles. That guy
He's
is
on the
something
Kings?
else. He was on the Kings, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's where I live, Sacramento.
White chocolate, baby. We gotta put some
Go
white
Kings.
chocolate clips soon.
Okay.
No, absolutely. And even with that, once again, why is Harrison Butker going viral? Because he's different, because he's a Christian football player. That's why people are talking about him. That's why people care. That's the difference. Anyways, sorry. I know I keep going on a tangent. I could talk about it all night. But everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, 7 days a week, some level of content from Breakaway USA. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. Check out Breakaway USA and all of our contributors, please. And thank you, because we're the people that are going to bring you the news that no one else will, in the way that no one else will. Against the lamestream media, that's Breakaway USA. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America. And good night.